And we're live.
I guess I got on the politics. Have you watched this Comey thing?
Yeah.
Again, week after week, I'm like, I wonder if Kyle and Taylor are still Team Trump on this.
Oh, of course. It just seems like everybody's conspiring against Trump with this Comey guy. Clearly a plant. Absolutely a Hillary shill, right?
There's only a couple things it can be, right? Like one is Comey actually was going to uncover something, and so he gave him the boot. Yeah. Two, Trump is so not good at planning ahead that he got mad at Comey and fired him now, and none of the people around him had the balls to say, hey, Trump, that's a really stupid idea to do right now. Either you're so bad at trying to cover this up that you make it look like a worse cover up, or you're so eager to just get it out there and be like, let's just end this. You know, there's nothing there that you make an innocent thing appear like a cover up. It's like he handled this so badly. It's like the timing of it is the most suspicious thing to me, because it's like his excuse of, I don't like how he treated Hillary. It's like, well,
no. He said insubordination. They said their firing was insubordination because he wouldn't brief them on what he was going to say to the Senate.
That's the truth. I think Kyle's right, but that's not the official message. The official message was she got fired. Comey got fired because he didn't handle the Hillary email. So he didn't treat Hillary fairly.
Yeah, if that were the case, like he definitely has a right. Like everybody has a right to be mad at Comey with the way that he's handled shit. He's proven that he's not good at his job. The way he handled the Clinton investigation, the way he's handled being so politicized during the election. The right move, if that stuff really pissed Trump off, would have been to fire him right away. Like, as soon as it starts to be like, hey, no one is going to trust the FBI or put any credence in what you people say because of how bad Comey is reflected on your organization, we're getting you out of here. But the fact that he waited until now and fired him,
the way Democrats see it is they're like, all right, we hated him when he, politicized the email thing on Wiener's computer and such, and we think that he made Hillary lost the election. But now that he's going after Trump, he feels really nonpartisan. So maybe this is a good person. And then he got fired. And like Kyle said, what I read is that Trump hasn't been happy with Comey for a while. They didn't like that he didn't sort of like pre-testify, didn't tell Trump what he was going to be saying. And then just recently he asked for more budget and resources to investigate this Russian thing. So Trump fired him. And Trump made it seem like, I'm going to get the name of it wrong, but it's like the guy under the Attorney General recommended it. And then that guy like nearly threatened, Deputy Attorney General threatened to quit for like putting it all on him. He's like, what the fuck? You make it sound like this was all my idea. He nearly quit about it.
He dated it. That's the thing too. Good point is that, like, if he had fired Comey right away, I feel like everybody, like, of course, some Democrats would have hated him because it's Trump. But for the most part, if it was right at the beginning of the presidency, everybody hated Comey because everybody felt like he'd done it bad. You know, like everybody would have been cool with him being fired, or at least cooler. But that Rod Rosenthal letter that the deputy attorney general, that was dated, the letter that he wrote was dated the day before he was fired. And so it's like, okay, so this really wasn't a large planned thing at all, was it? Like, I really do think this boils down to a lot is that Trump is super impulsive with some things, and that he gets mad. And, we do know from history with Trump that he has a propensity to fire people. And he just seems like a guy who's running it his way and is like, all right, you're fucking fired. Like, you're out. I don't like what you did. I don't care if this reflects badly on me. And I really think he's got a lot of yes men around him who aren't talking. Because if he didn't have a yes man around him, like, imagine if you were there, Woody, and he was like, I'm gonna fire him tomorrow. You'd be like, I'm not your biggest fan, Trump, but don't you see how that would reflect badly on you? Like, it doesn't look good for timing.
Here's what the stories are going to be. This is what people are going to be saying. This is going to bury you. But I think Trump was trying to derail the investigation against him. And this is 2D shoots and ladders, right? Like, there's no investigation against me because I just got rid of the investigator. Like,
the investigation continues. Like, it doesn't matter
this is my Trump impression. I know you can't tell. It's like my regular voice.
I got it. I was following 100%. I was with you.
Sorry.
Yeah, because this seems like an 8-year-old is the president, and that's why I don't think that is what he's thinking, Woody. Because even an 8-year-old would know that just because you like fire the sheriff, he's got plenty of deputies, right? Mm-hmm. Like that position will not remain unfilled for the next 4 years. He's the director of the FBI. Like, it's a big deal, right? Like someone else is going to fill his shoes. The investigations will continue. my thought, you asked if we're still drinking the Kool-Aid or whatever. I guess my thought process is
phrased it much nicer.
Yeah, I know. I'm still on board with most of it. There's plenty of stuff he's done that I don't care for. That lead with the waterfowl thing is among them. Jesus Christ, was that really necessary? Like I don't care. And like I said, the result
about that.
The result of that, and I know a tiny bit about it, is it'll be cheaper to make bullets. It'll be cheaper to buy certain bullets. And the waterfowl might get a little fucked because their habitat's got a little more lead in it than it used to. But
you need someone around him to say no. Like he needs someone around him to tell him when he's about to make a stupid move, and he doesn't have anybody like that. Like if he really knows in his heart that he didn't do anything with Russia, just let it play out. Just let it play out. And the truth will come out eventually. There's still no hard evidence at all that there's any Trump-Russia collusion. Just let it play out. If you're innocent, you're innocent. But firing this guy, they're still going to investigate it. And if there's nefarious shit afoot, they will find it.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. And I hope they do find it if there is. I mean, if Donald Trump did some bad stuff to get elected, then we should get rid of Donald Trump because we don't want that in our system.
Yeah,
what I'm okay with is this is like a wild card coming in and really kind of flipping the monopoly board off the table, and maybe we can find a better way to do some things or a more efficient way to do some things. I'd like to see that because I feel like anything that he signs, any of these, he's not making new laws, right? Like he's just signing these executive decisions or whatever they're called.
Orders.
All of this can be easily fixed with an eraser and just another term, right? Like this is not the end of the world. He's taking some steps backwards, but he's not driving the car that we're all in backwards, right? Like he hasn't. Nothing awful has happened. What concerns me the most is this Russia stuff and whether or not he went around our
What is it about the Russia thing that is so troubling to you? It's still
all right. So there's a lot of smoke. There's no fire
evidence of it.
I don't like how much smoke there is. I don't necessarily think that we're going to find fire. I hope we don't, but I think we should keep digging until we know for sure 100% who knew what and when. That's always the question that comes up.
I'm pretty sure Manafort and Flynn were working with Russians. Right, like that.
Well, they were working with Russians, but I don't think that they were colluding.
But there's no evidence of collusion.
I mean, the fact that they removed the thing about the Russians in the Republican platform, they removed that plank on how they wanted to deal with Russians, was really concerning to me.
I don't buy the Flynn thing of you've heard Obama told them not to hire Flynn or whatever. He told them that a long time ago, and even after the Russia stuff came out, Obama still re-upped Flynn's security clearance and shit. So he wasn't out of that loop at all.
That, right? I thought the timing on that was the opposite, that he re-upped it a long time ago. And yeah, because Obama had fired Flynn.
Yes, and after he fired him, he re-upped his security clearance. He was still allowed to observe that shit. So it is a lot of confusing shit because it's hard to know who to believe because everything, you get 3 paragraphs into any article on any site and you're like, God, I can see exactly where you're trying to get me to go. I don't know.
But regardless, I'm happier that Donald Trump is in there than if Hillary Clinton was in there. I see the Russians flying off the Aleutian Islands in their 1950s style bear bombers with fighter escorts flying right off our coast and stuff. And I can just see Hillary escalating that and making that a global fucking problem, a huge, I don't care that they're flying their 1950s bombers up there, hanging their dicks out, we give a shit. You've got the economy of Italy, and we know it.
Right? I feel like there is some issues, and I can't remember what it was, but I've heard you guys argue it. Maybe it was Syria saying, we cannot allow them to cross this line. The bombing was a very good idea because, it was that they used the bioweapons, I think, on people. Yeah. And we were like, if they do that, we had to destroy their airport. Otherwise, we look weak. Right. But then, the Russians are flying fighter jets across from Alaska. And it's I'm so glad we're not overreacting to that. It seems
I didn't say that. I thought the bombing in Syria was a bad idea. I said it the whole time. I didn't like that.
Well, I didn't mean to misquote you.
You can't respond to Russia the same way you would respond to Syria.
And also, Russia did.
And I think a lot
massive difference, right? You got the Syria, you got the Assad regime using chemical weapons against his own citizens and killing scores of them right there in his own country for the news cameras to see. And you got the Russians in international airspace, just flying military maneuvers that are threatening in a way, but they're perfectly legal as far as international law is concerned. It's just posturing, and we have been doing it to them, and they've been doing it to us since
Yeah.
like the 50s.
If that's the
Something that's
case, then I'm on the same page. Really, where I was coming from was I find this to be complicated, and I never feel fully informed.
We never
It's
are.
almost
I
like
feel you.
every source I read has a motive, and shucks, the facts of what we did to that airport. I have heard people say it was just a wasted thing. That airport was functional the next day. We put some holes in buildings and in the airport itself, like literally like the tarmac, and it was bullshit. Then I've heard people say we destroyed like millions or maybe $1 billion worth of planes. We seriously impacted their entire air force. Like I've heard both sides of that. I don't know what the truth is. Each side seemed to have a motive in their description.
Well, we definitely didn't hurt the operational abilities of the airport, right? And Trump spoke to this because Trump came out and they were like, people are complaining because there aren't holes in the runway. This is a military runway. They have teams of people, he said, I didn't know this, whose job it is to fix holes in their runway. Like there's a guy whose job is runway hole fixer.
I know
and he trains to fix holes in runways.
Well, yeah, they have people like that.
And when he sees you drop that $1 million bomb on his runway, he's like, I got $50 worth of asphalt, bitch. Get the shovel. Like he just doesn't care. But the munitions that they used from the YouTube videos that I saw are like airburst, and they're shooting lots of projectiles down from a height of 100 feet or something down on planes. Who knows how many planes we hit? Who knows what kind of planes? Who knows who really owned those planes? It's entirely possible that we fucking paid for those planes and gave them to them, that gave them to the Saudis, and then the Saudis sold them to them. Like those are probably our goddamn planes for all we know. I mean, they're probably Russian MiGs or something like that.
I get like the whole feel. Like I understand like when Obama did like the red line of biological warfare, like that does set a precedent of like if someone's going to tease you at that. If you've set a red line, you have to abide by it, like to make sure that people respect you. But there's something that just seems wrong morally almost with being like, all right, we're going to jump in when it's biological stuff. But if they did the exact same thing and killed, twice as many people with just regular bullets,
we're fine with barrel bombs.
Well, we can't jump in there. They used a barrel bomb. That's not biological. You know what I mean? Like it's.
I do.
Like the people are still dead regardless. Like,
and the barrel bombs are pretty awful too. It's a barrel full of explosives and shrapnel. They're dropping from helicopters. Like it's some shit that like any of us could cook up, in our backyards. It's just a matter of hoisting it up on a helicopter and dropping it on some fucking civilians, and that's what they're doing. And I remember Sean Spicer in the press. The press was kind of asking him basically what we're talking about right now. They're like, so there won't be a response if barrel bombs are used? And he's like, we are here to talk about chemical weapons. They will not be tolerated. And they're like, what about barrel bombs? We're not here to discuss barrel bombs. And
that's the right answer though, because otherwise they'd be like, all right, well then barrel bombs are in. How about just regular bullets? Like, are they less valuable because they got shot in the head with a 5.56 or whatever? Like,
I hear you start making this crooked line that they're not supposed to pass. It's weird.
And then the end, I just care about
like
those Syrian people anyway. Like, there's no reason for us to care about them.
We've covered this. They're not real people.
They're not. I mean, we've got plenty of people here that we should be looking out for.
Think of all the veterans getting screwed by the PA.
If you told me it costs like $100 million to fuck up that airport. If you told me, I would much rather if we spent that $100 million on like some underprivileged Canadian children.
Dude, do you know how many college scholarships that could be?
They're American children.
A million. Oh, not a million.
I'm just thinking, like, I'm gonna say $100,000 gets you 2 scholarships, right? Like, that takes you pretty far. And 100 million, is that 200 scholarships? Maybe
200,000.
2,000.
2,000 scholarships. I was off by an order
2
of magnitude.
billion scholarships. That's right. Almost 1/3 of the humans on Earth could go.
Everyone gets 50 cents.
That is enough money to pay for all of my homes for 1,000 years.
So,
I'm considering purchasing a 4th.
There's always better things to do. Anyway, it seems like all the Trump news is bad, and all of it seems to be big and bad to me, right? Like I remember at this point in Obama's term, people were complaining like, "Oh, can you believe he bowed to an Asian guy?" Right? Like maybe he bowed to the China guy, or I forget. And they're like,
Saudi Arabia.
Was it Saudi? Okay, yeah. So he bowed in some culture where people bow, and they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe he fucking did that. America's terrible. What an embarrassment." Or he took Air Force One to visit, like, it was like a tour. It was like India and Europe or something like that. And they're like, oh my God, we're spending so much money on Obama visiting foreign dignitaries. Like, this is, and it was just like, I feel like in those cases, maybe I'm biased, you're fucking complaining about nothing, right? Then with Trump, it's like, oh, your national security advisor didn't disclose the fact that he was actually a foreign agent paid to represent the interests of Turkey and Russia. Like, these are big things. Oh, you're
Just Turkey.
no, because it was the Russian PR state-owned news that also paid him too.
Russia Today.
And Manafort, I
If you're
forget
using
his
the
exact
media
thing.
as a barometer, though, I don't think it fully works because to pretend that the media treatment of Trump and Obama is even vaguely comparable,
I'm not talking
just
about
not true.
media treatment. I'm talking about the actual things they do, right? Like, Obama
I know, but that's
was
partially
actually
influenced
for
by how
net
much they turn
neutrality,
it to 11.
and Trump is against net neutrality. Trump was for advertisers selling your private browsing data, what was previously private browsing data. Trump is for financial advisors no longer having to represent the people they're advising. In what world is that okay? Like, these are just money doctors, right? They're doctors for your finances, and now they no longer have to heal you. Like, that obligation is gone, and like, that's one that strikes close to my heart. I feel like that's the thing, and I'm sure
everything's going to get fixed, starting with Syria. You know, people say just because the Middle East has been in constant turmoil for thousands of years that it can't be fixed in one term. Well,
it's a lot easier than people think it is. Right? Does he say that? He's like, I think fixing the Middle East is a lot easier than people say it is.
All
And
these
then,
people
I
complain.
can't wait.
The Jews and the Arabs not getting along for thousands of years. You need 3 years of Trump, get it taken care. Maybe 5 years of Trump.
4 months
actually.
from
You know,
now,
it's like-
4 months from now, he's going to be like, you know what? The Middle East situation, very complicated. Nobody knew. Turns out that this is complicated.
Speaking of which, have you ever considered slavery and the Civil War? I mean, my God, it's like we never talk about this.
No one ever
It's like,
asked the
what? Have you-
question
have
why
you-
we did this.
It's like, people
No.
ask that question all the time. Like, and it's very simply answered. Like, you just say, like, well, it was a states' rights and slavery issue.
Yeah,
There you go.
And every new state, there was a battle to see which side they landed on, and then it had to be settled. Yeah, I to me, every day is another like showstopper. Like if there was a democratically controlled Congress, they'd be pursuing him in such a way that he would get, Nixoned out. But with Republicans, it seems like they're in charge of all these like Richard Burr is, one of the top guys, and he's laughably pro-Trump. So it's, your best friend is the cop chasing you. You're fine.
Yeah, he'll be okay. I've been saying that all along. Trump's gonna be fine. I mean, he's literally got to like break some laws, and we just haven't seen that yet. We've seen him be a fucking moron and irresponsible and embarrassing and, well, all kinds of awful things, but
Yeah.
not a criminal, not yet anyway.
We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think it's likely that he fired him because he's actually colluded with Russia. And I also don't think he fired him because he was just so upset for Hillary Clinton and just so sad about it. It's like, no, I
Poor Cricket Hillary wasn't treated fairly.
I think that things get under his skin easily, and that one of the things I bet that pissed him off a lot is when he came out with the wiretapping stuff, and Comey didn't back him up with that at all, and was like, yeah, we don't see what you're talking about here. I bet that pissed Trump off bigly. Because
Perfect.
like, I really do think, I think that kind of stuff gets under his skin. And I think he ended up firing him here because he's so upset about, like, because in his head, he's like, I didn't do anything wrong. Wrap this up. Get it done. This is bullshit. But he's like, good God, like, can no one in that office just say, like, hey, not right now, bud? Like, this is like 3 months
I
ago.
think there's a
move.
reason. I think that, so if you were to hear it from Trump's perspective, he says he really, really values loyalty, right? He wants people on Team Trump. If you're disloyal, that's one of the biggest offenses you can have. He kept Manafort when things looked terrible because he was loyal to the guy, right? And loyalty is Trump's thing. But when you value loyalty that much, you surround yourself with sycophants.
Yeah, with yes men and sycophants. Yep.
Sycophants. So he surrounds himself with sycophants, which are people who are just like super fans, undying, unquestionably fans. And that means he's not getting the sounding board that he needs to prevent some of these mistakes, but in his head, he's just surrounded by loyal people. From the outside, he's surrounded by sycophants who can't tell him his ideas are bad. And
yeah, really, he needs someone in there to be telling him no, and like at the very least, prodding him on things and being like, "Are you like, let's play it out?" You know that no matter what you do, you're going to get a lot of heat from the media. Do you think this plays well right now? Like, just play it out in your head. And in his head, I bet he was like, "Oh no, the Democrats hate Kobe too. We're all good." Like, which is true. The Democrats hate Comey too, but still,
I think it's
just
fair for the Democrats to change. They hated Comey when he ruined Hillary's chances of getting elected. They started feeling like Comey was pretty independent when he was pursuing Trump and his Russian ties.
But it was more of like it's a problem of his reputation at that point, of like he'd gotten so involved with Hillary, ending that investigation badly, reopening it, and then closing it right before the election again. Without
that was
any
fucked
good
up.
conclusions.
But I just
it
feel
was
like
just
they've been
stupid.
nailing
Like-
these Democrats to the wall, saying like, you didn't like him in October, and now you seem to like him that he's chasing Trump. And from my blue shaded lenses, I'm like, yeah, that makes perfect sense, though, right?
I don't think it does, because there were like Maxine Waters, so many high level Democrats were calling for him to be fired like a couple of weeks ago. And it really wasn't until this happened that they were like, actually,
did you
he's a
Trump
hero.
tweet that out? Trump tweeted out a compilation of Democrats calling for Comey's job.
I saw that. Yeah, but again, they were all from like, pre-election times.
Of course,
No,
but
they're
it's
from
the same stuff.
October of last year.
Most of them were from post-election, because they all
Or
blamed her.
barely
blamed him,
post-election, right? Like hot off the election. And then the other thing, so Trump's gotten rid of Comey for investigating him. He's gotten rid of Yates when she was investigating him. And he got rid of that New York Attorney General guy, Bartolo or something. I forgot his name, because he was investigating him. And it just seems like if you investigate Trump-Russia ties, he fires you immediately if he can. And that looks
maybe
bad.
people will learn their lessons.
Yeah. I mean, now that it's 3, it's, it's obvious. It seems like we're not jumping to conclusions anymore. He's done it 3 times now.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to see how all this pans out. It's been entertaining as hell. I enjoy it immensely. I'm looking forward to. I want him to do one of those. I don't know what you call them. When the president sits at his desk and addresses the nation, maybe just a presidential address. When they it'll be like in prime time. All of a sudden, all the channels are like, "Whoa, president's got something to say." And I want one of those from him. I don't know what it would be or why it would be warranted, but
it would
I'd like
probably
to see him
play well. I swear, anytime Trump reads from a teleprompter, then everyone's amazed that he didn't just like ad-lib word salad shit.
When he reads from when he reads from a teleprompter,
it plays well in the press. When he did the State of the Union address.
It reads well. You can read it what he said after the fact and be like, yeah, this is pretty good because somebody else wrote it. But as he's reading it, it's like someone who's reading something they haven't read before, because he doesn't know when to emphasize the words, and so the whole sentence
he's not good at it.
Become disjointed.
But like the State of the Union, they were like, this is the birth of President Trump, right? We've seen candidate and loose cannon Trump. This is the birth of President Trump. It didn't last very long, but that's how the media reacted to it.
Yeah.
As he was campaigning, the media seemed to be really impressed when he didn't go off message, when he just, was a little more restrained. So I think if he did what you're doing, it would play well. But I don't, like you said, I don't know what he'd be talking about. He'd have to address the Russian thing or something. Yeah,
he needs to create his own news. He needs to wag the dog here. He's the news is Trump, and Trump needs to come up with something else for everybody to look at. Because we just there's a lot of smoke, and there hasn't been any fire necessarily yet, or not the good kind of fire, not like a smoking gun or anything. And if that happens, fuck him, get him out of there. But until then, I'm on board. I like the entertainment. I didn't really care for a political system to begin with. I feel like it could use a little bit of like humiliation. I feel like our political system could benefit from a little humiliation, a little bit of dragging through the mud, so that maybe next time around people are like, look, this is important. You saw what happened when you didn't take it seriously. Like, maybe that'll happen. Maybe that'll come of this.
One of the things that I was hoping would come of this was the Democrats get rid of superdelegates, right? I feel like that is just outright blazing system rigging bullshit.
Yeah, it doesn't look good at all.
But almost like because the Republicans didn't have superdelegates, we got Trump. who I predict is going to turn out to be a very unsuccessful president, he might make a case for superdelegates sticking around. Hell, the Republicans might throw him in. And that's the opposite of what I was hoping would happen. Yeah, look, good or bad president, he should be chosen by the people, according to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I was started Chiz last night. I was like, this is a cool time to be alive. Like, the Donald Trump presidency is going to be fucking poured over and looked at 150, 200 years from now. And it's going to be like, what? You know, if we're still here and everything. Depending on how badly he does, it might be looked at 1,000 years. And that was the fall of the Americans. They don't even know how to pronounce our name anymore.
Regardless of, you know, what you think of Trump, it is undeniable that the Russians played a role in getting him elected. Right? He may or may not have colluded, but everyone has agreed that the Russians, you know, worked with WikiLeaks and published stuff, and they have messages, and they're apparently motivated to do it again for the midterms. And like, this is a kind of thing that will be studied, I think. Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that that's a on the surface, that seems like there is an evildoer propping up an evildoer, when in reality, it's another country who's looking at our elections and knowing that if Hillary wins, it's going to be very bad for them. And if Donald Trump wins, it's an unknown. And they preferred the unknown. You had Hillary talking about a red line, talking about a no-fly zone, and talking about, and of course, their oil business is a big deal to them. And it was going to cost them billions of dollars more, perhaps throw them into a war with the United States, which no matter how much blustering those cunts do, they do not fucking want. It just wasn't going to go well. And so, sure, a Donald Trump presidency definitely benefits them, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
We don't even know anymore 100%, though, because they were pretty upset when we struck against Syria.
Oh, yeah. I'm not talking about collusion. I'm talking about, like, look, it's a binary decision if you're Russia, just like it was a binary decision for all of us.
No, I wasn't talking about the collusion either. I was meaning like if Putin was like, this is going to be way better, and then he did that because they were clearly very unhappy about that.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't last long, right? They're in the White House right now hanging out with Trump.
Yeah, I thought that Putin's reaction to our bomb in Syria was like...
Kiselyak's there.
I thought it was the weakest thing that they could have done and still, like, kept their, like, you know, international machismo or whatever. You know, they were like, we didn't like that at all. But they weren't like, we condemn this act in the United States as an act of war and it will not be tolerated. And there wasn't all that blustering and bullshit. Even they knew, because they are. I get the UN and NATO mixed up occasionally as far as which one has treaties that prevent this or that. But I know that Russia is a member of one of them, and they are not honor bound, but they are bound to enforce the rules against chemical warfare in the same way we are. So they had no reason to be blustering and
I overreacted to that. At all. It wasn't like I did anything or even said anything, but in my heart, I was like, I thought it could be the start of World War III, the Syria bombing. Because, dude, World Wars start over shit like that. Like, one leader gets assassinated, one fake ship gets sunk. Like, wars start that way. And I was like, us bombing Syria could kick it off. And then you get different people condemning it, not condemning it. I'm like, we're choosing teams now, right? We're choosing teams for World War III.
We chose the teams a long time ago. Like, the teams are already set.
But I didn't know they were news to me, you know?
And Germany's going to be on the right team this time.
Yeah.
Every time.
So we might lose. They always lose.
Norm Macdonald has the best bit about Germany. He's like, there's the Germans, and they declared war and against the whole world. And you'd have thought it wouldn't have been close at all, like a blowout, but it was close. and then, like 15 years later, Germany declared war again. This time against the world again. And this time they was really close. They nearly won again. So you'd think that we'd be like, all right, that's enough of you, Germany. But no, we're just waiting on them to come back. And
you think it'd be really close, but yeah.